stepped in and I spoke with the councillor in charge of the ward. Please, can you help me assist this family? Now, can there be a check whereby schools just not just chase the children out? Because now once a child is excluded, their siblings will be going to school. When their siblings go out, they are at home Monday till Sunday. Nowhere. Parents now can't go to work because it's a minor. Now, a child that doesn't have behavioral problems before at home starts to have it. You see it, like one of my members now, she now runs away from the house. She now depends on social media. Mental health is being affected. So I really want you to look at specifically the area of the youth because they are the future.
Yeah.
So months, years time, they will be the one here.
Yeah.
So we really need to support them early.
I agree.
Now, the third point I want you to look at again is proper support. Generally, we went to school, we read English, we did mathematics, but you will agree with me that it's not mathematics that is keeping our family. It's not our GCSE results that is helping our relationship with others. And that is where I want to please, can we bring...
Let me just quickly respond to some of those. On the free school meals, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a bit of a cliff edge. You know, free school meals are what's called a passported benefit as well. So if you qualify for free school meals, it means you get lots of other things too. And when you lose free school meals, you kind of end up losing other things too, like free transport and free school uniforms and things like that. So there is an issue of what we call in policy terms a cliff edge. So it's a very clear line, and you're either over it or under it. But actually, it should be greyer than that because life is not as straightforward as that. That's partly why we've extended now free school meals to another 500,000 children. So we've raised the cliff edge. Just that happened in April. So that's now taken in a lot more families than it did have before. So that's something that the Labour government's looking at. So you might want to look again at that. It's also why we've brought in all these free breakfast clubs as well, because as you say, a lot of children are not eating breakfast at home. It's quite expensive. And it's also why, you know, here in Manchester, we've had the free bus travel for the 16 to 19-year-olds, but now why we have a policy, you know, for the new mayor to bring in free bus travel for all 11 to 18-year-olds, which will save families a huge amount of money for those who need to get the bus to school, and it gives those young people, you know, a real chance to develop independence. You know, helps tackle mental health and all of those things as well. You know, my kids absolutely love going around on the buses, you know, on the weekend, and they can go places and meet friends and do stuff. So I know how important that is. On your sort of second point, absolutely, we need to do a lot more what we call preventative support, so early intervention, early prevention. That is the model that we have actually got in Manchester, which we've been much more successful at with young people, but there's still more that we can do with that. We've got a great family hub here in Cheetham Hill that does really good work of working with families, you know, early in the cycle, and that's meant that, for example, in Manchester, the number of children going into care is falling. I think we're the only local authority in the whole of the country where the number of children going into care is actually falling. But there needs to be more that can be done with schools as well. Some schools are you know, do exclude too many children. They do. Lots of schools now are not accountable to the local authority. They're not accountable to local councillors, so they have these policies around exclusions, and we need to tackle that, because you're right, once someone's excluded, that can be kind of life-changing in a bad way. So we need to do more around that too. And then, yeah, you're absolutely right. We need an education system that's not just so focused on GCSEs. Yes, GCSEs are really important. Education, having good education is really important. Gives you that passport to go on to do and get a good job. But young people today, I mean, to be honest, young people of yesterday as well, you know, there's many more skills, financial, you know, understanding money, getting more work experience, you know, having the opportunity to do some more technical education as well. because not everybody is academic, not everybody wants to go to university, and we've got lots of good jobs, whether that's hairdressing, whether that's plumbing or electricians, or all these other jobs in engineering and all sorts of things that don't require necessarily to be academic. But we don't have a strong enough sort of pathway for that. So these are all things that the Labour government and the Labour Council and the Labour Mayor here, we're trying to tackle these things together. It takes some while. We have made some progress. I think you'll agree on some of those areas. So do have a look at that.
Right, I'm gonna congratulations to you for having your old friend Andy Burnham and unfortunately another friend of Israel in Parliament and maybe in 10 Downing Street, and we hope that if he become a Prime Minister, we are expecting your role more extensive, deeper and stronger. But with that role, we have more hopes and we expect a lot more from you. But unfortunately, your voting pattern and history on humanitarian issues in Parliament is not very encouraging.
Like what? So.
You were abstain. Okay, you didn't sign the letter for sanction on Israel when it will come to, and again, you didn't support the ICC arrest warrant for the Israeli war criminals. So these are all humanitarian issues.
When was that?
November 2023, you were absent when it comes to the voting for ceasefire in occupied Gaza.
I'll let me explain. Yeah.
Okay, and when it comes to 27th of March 2024, when there was a voting for suspend arms sales to Israel, you didn't sign the letter. When it comes to uphold ICC arrest warrant against Israeli war criminals on 22nd of May 2024, you didn't sign the letter. You voted yes for declaring Palestine Action Committee as a terrorist organization. Okay. On 24th of July 2025, when it comes to voting for enforced sanctions on Israel,
I've been a friend of Palestine my whole political career. Very involved in Labour Friends of Palestine. I spoke at their event just this week alongside the ambassador, who's a good friend of mine, and we work closely together. I've long supported recognition of Palestine. I voted for that in 2014. I voted for that and ensured that the Labour government did the recognition of Palestine last year, the first time a British government has done that, which is a big step forward. And of course, the Labour government has sanctioned Israeli ministers. It's ended trade talks. There are new sanctions coming now against those that are occupying the West Bank. We're the biggest provider of aid into Palestine and supporting UNRWA. There's a huge amount there. Let me just take head on. So first of all, there wasn't a vote for a ceasefire. Okay, this was an amendment, a meaningless amendment that didn't have any meaning. It was a political sort of issue. It wasn't actually going to kind of cause a ceasefire or anything to do with that. It was an amendment to vote down another piece of legislation. So that was that issue. I don't sign letters. I don't sign round robin letters. I've always had that policy, partly because I'm now deputy leader. Previously, I was a member of the cabinet. So I don't sign round robin letters. It doesn't mean to say that I don't send my own letters. It doesn't mean to say that I don't do my own representations within government. As we were just talking about before, I use my role to speak very strongly and firmly within cabinet discussions, within the Labour Party about the positions that we are adopting. I know that people feel disappointed and let down, especially around the time in the sort of few months in the early sort of stages of what was happening in Palestine. They didn't feel the Labour Party was speaking strongly enough about those issues. I know that, and I agree with that. We weren't speaking strongly enough. But don't let that take away from some of the very, very important strides I think this Labour government has taken. As I say, the recognition of Palestine is a big thing, but it has to mean something. It really has to mean, you know, an end to. We've always supported a two-state solution. That's a core part of that. That means a viable, a secure, a prosperous and safe Palestine that's got justice. As I said at the event that I was speaking with the ambassador the other evening, we also completely uphold international law. I support the work of the ICC. Wherever that goes, people need to be held absolutely to account for whatever judgments are made. Absolutely. We've always supported those processes, and it's for those organisations, International Criminal Court, for the international organisations to look into what has happened in Palestine and other places and to hold people to account. I'm not a judge. It's not my role to, you know, look into all of that, go to Palestine, speak to people and find out what's happened. That is the role of the ICC. I absolutely, whatever their findings are, we must uphold those. We must hold people to account and make sure there's justice, because without justice we can't have the lasting peace that we need, and we can't have viable states. What's happening now on the West Bank is completely wrong. It's appalling. We're calling that out all of the time. Britain is leading the way with other countries in sanctions on war ministers. So, you know, I think rather than look at what people put on social media that are symbolic gestures that frankly actually don't mean anything, signing letters or, you know, meaning votes that actually weren't about what they were about, look at our actions, look at my actions, look at my support that I've given over a long period of time, and judge me on that. And I'm really happy to debate that and have these conversations, but you know, let's just talk honestly about that rather than, you know, do that. I don't sign letters, but just because I haven't signed a letter doesn't mean to say that I'm not supporting those things. I get asked to sign hundreds of things on hundreds of different issues all the time, and so it's better that I and quite a few MPs do that as well. So sometimes people offer gestures, that's great. I want to offer action, an actual meaningful action, and that's my approach, and it's just a slightly different approach. So I hope that satisfies you. Supported that. So look, people can share things around on social media that misrepresent people's actual, where they actually come from, and what they actually believe about these things. So I think judge us on our actions, and in 2 weeks' time, I think you will see very strongly a Prime Minister that supports Palestine and supports sanctioning ministers, Israeli ministers, ending licences for arms, stopping trade talks, further sanctions, you know, are now coming as well. There's a whole range of things there that you could also point to and say they are good, positive, very important things. The aid, you know, leading the aid effort, getting in as well, and supporting UNRWA, which many other countries haven't done. There are lots of good things there too. So we don't get everything right, I completely accept that. But there are two sides to every story. That's all I would just say.
And last thing, very last thing I'm asking now. Like, of course, I'm not asking about these domestic issues. Regarding the international thing again, like recently, like we have been, I would say, humiliated and ridiculed by American administration, especially by POTUS. So how are we going to take on them? Because including our soldiers, you got what I'm saying? Yeah. So how are we going to take on those issues with
Yeah, these are, I mean, we put it, maverick and interesting president in America at the moment that, you know, really does sort of shoot from the hip. It's very hard to sort of keep up with what he's doing. You know, obviously America have been an ally of Europe, an ally of the UK for 100 years or more. But, you know, things are challenging, obviously, at the moment. I am actually very proud that the Labour government and Keir Starmer absolutely refused to get involved with the war on Iran, because that was not in our national interest, and that wasn't the right thing to do. Again, You know, you can ask me about signing a letter, or you can ask me about taking a big decision like that, okay? I don't think the two things are equivalent. You know, one is like actually a big, real decision that was the right decision, that I think was, you know, spoke to our values, it's what British people wanted. Another is sort of signing a letter that I didn't even know it sort of existed. So let's just make sure we get the big calls right, okay? That's what we have to do. We have to tread carefully with these, you know, there's a lot going on in the world. I've never known, none of us have ever known a time. There's so much instability internationally. Ukraine, the Middle East, Sudan, we've been hearing about, you know, that's a very big concern, that the UK is very much involved in what's happening in Sudan as well at the moment, trying to resolve that. Trade, you know, being upended and used in a way that we've not seen trade be used before. You know, these are all having real effects here at home on people's energy bills, on people's food prices, as well as the impact it's having on those places around the world. So, you know, I think we don't always get everything right, but Britain remains a kind of leading player in bringing together coalitions to bring peace, in terms of bringing coalitions to resolve issues, in terms of keeping trade open, waterways open, and all of that. We've always punched above our weight, really, when it comes to diplomacy and playing that role. And you know, I think we do that well as a country. And I'm proud of some of those big decisions that we've made that really are affecting some of that. But we haven't always got everything right, and I appreciate that.
Inform you. I like this nation for their working in the past. When I was student of 9th class in 1961, I was studying outside the Gulnar House, Lahore, to welcome the Honourable Queen Elizabeth.
Fantastic.
Along with Mr. President Ayub Khan.
And we've got a bigger problem with care workers, haven't we? Because they are exploited often, brought over, as they say. Then a company, either a company goes bust, or often what will happen if it's many women mainly get pregnant, then they're just taken off the books, and then they're here pregnant without a sponsor. So there's a huge amount of exploitation, I think, which needs tackling in a different way to how we are looking at that at the moment. And I've talked to Shabana about that extensively, to the outgoing Prime Minister and the potentially incoming Prime Minister and others, and I will continue to do that. On the issues around settlement, I think the new immigration bill is being introduced, I think, in the next couple of weeks. Some of the issues around retrospective and care workers are being changed from the original proposals, I am assured. Let's see. But we'll also have ample time sort of in Parliament to really sort of scrutinise some of those issues. So there are a lot of exemptions. It's just like how we can make sure those exemptions, you know, capture all the people that we want them to capture, and that sort of work in that way. It's that, Andy's not yet the leader. There's a process we've got to go through. MPs will be making their choice in the next couple of weeks. It looks very likely it will be Andy Burnham, but it's not yet decided. And then it will be up to him to choose his cabinet, and he will make those choices, I'm sure. Making sure that we represent the whole Labour Party, the whole country, and all different views are represented.
Well, he's announced that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what he's going to do. He's standing to be leader of the Labour Party, next Prime Minister. He's absolutely standing to do that. He gave a big speech in Manchester earlier this week, full of ideas, full of things he'd like to do, and I think a lot of that is quite exciting. I am deputy leader. I'm elected to my own right. I have a mandate from the party and the members to be deputy leader, and that's up to Andy and their conversations that we have. Well, look, we've got to look at the issues of care workers because they are exploited, and they are in a quite perilous situation. I think Shabana has already said that she will look at those issues and some of the ideas and policies on retrospective ILR would apply to care workers. She's already said that. So let's see what comes forward. But also, I think there's a wider piece of work on care workers. We've got the Fair Work Agency coming into effect that will support care workers. But I think there's more to be done there when people come to this country for a specific company and then that company either goes bust or treats them badly, maybe stops work and they become pregnant or something like that, and then they're left in no man's land. And we've really got to tackle these issues because we don't want to see workers, wherever they come from, we don't want to see workers exploited. That is not what we want to see in this country. Immigration bill, yeah, I think that's been well publicised. That's going to be into Parliament in the next few weeks. And so there'll be lots of people can really have a look at the detail then of the policies. We can debate those issues in Parliament. And there was a consultation earlier this year. We spoke about it. I think there was a consultation earlier this year about some new immigration policies. She's taken on board, all of the things that have come back from that consultation group that were saying about it, how will it apply, how will it work, and then proposals in the bill will be very soon.
Very last question. I just read you say he's not answering any questions about forbidden hounds or he just said no one bothers. So is it really correct, no one bothers?
We try and question him all the time. I mean, we want the highest standards in public life, and I think that's why we have this system in this country where you have to declare when you receive large donations. You can declare that. You received it before the general election. You are supposed to declare things like 12 months before an election is a lot of money. What was it for? What's it being used for? He does have a huge income now, outside income, but yet he's a member of Parliament. He has a lot of second jobs. He's earned money from selling gold, from selling cryptocurrencies, and this is all quite murky if anything.
My whole year earnings and he's taking £20 an hour.
Yeah, and less, I think.
And he said £10.50.
He goes around pretending he's this sort of friend of working people, but not really, is he? Lives a different life to the rest of us. But more importantly, we need to know where this is coming from and what it's for.